to another Read Aloud with me, Mrs. Miller. Today we're going to be reading a classic story. You might have heard it before. It's called Town Mouse and Country Mouse. Now, the reason why I chose this story this week is because I want you to focus on something called comparing and contrasting. When you compare and contrast two things, it means you look at how two things are the same and you look at how two things are different. So, for example, we could compare and contrast an apple and an orange, right? How are apples and oranges the same? Well, they're both kind of round. They're both about the same size. They're both usually sweet, and they're both types of fruit. That might be 4 different ways that they're the same. Now let's see how they're different. Oranges definitely have a different texture than apples, right? Apples are very crunchy. Oranges are kind of squishy. Oranges are way juicier than apples, I think. And oranges have a different flavor than apples. And they're also different colors, and they have different skins on the outside, different textures, right? So there's lots of ways that they're different, just like there were lots of ways that they were the same. That's what comparing and contrasting means. So as I'm reading Town Mouse and Country Mouse today, your job is going to be to compare and contrast the town and the country, okay? So I want you to pay attention to what it's like in the town and pay attention to what it's like out in the country and think to yourself, how are the town and the country the same? And how is the town and the country different, okay? All right, are you ready? I turned a light on. Here we go. Town Mouse and Country Mouse. Once upon a time, there was a little gray mouse who lived in a very big house in town. One morning he said, "I need a vacation. I will go and visit my cousin in the country." Off he went. At last he reached his cousin's home in a wheat field. Come in, said Country Mouse. "I am so pleased to see you. You are just in time to have supper with me." Town Mouse was feeling very hungry after his long walk. He looked at the food that Country Mouse had spread out. "Is that all you have to eat?" said Town Mouse. "Well, you can have a share of this apple slice," said Country Mouse, "and we can share the peas and the wheat." After supper, Town Mouse tried to sleep on the bed of straw that Country Mouse had made for him. He thought about his own bed of soft, warm feathers back at the big house. Town Mouse tossed and turned. It was so quiet in the country. But what was that strange noise? An owl swooped down over the wheat field. "Hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo," it cried as it flew on. Town Mouse shivered with fear. The next morning, Country Mouse said, "Let me show you around the wheat field." No sooner had they begun their walk when a large weasel rushed by. The 2 little mice hid among the wheat. Town Mouse was very frightened. "I don't like it here in the country," he said. "Why don't you come stay with me? You will have plenty to eat and a soft feather bed to sleep on." "Yes, I would like that," said Country Mouse. Town Mouse and Country Mouse set off. It was getting dark as they made their way along the busy streets. The bright lights and tramping feet frightened Country Mouse. At last they reached the big house where Town Mouse lived. Country Mouse followed Town Mouse down a long hallway, under a door, and into the kitchen. Country Mouse could smell something delicious, and he began to feel better at once. He climbed onto the table with Town Mouse, and there before him was so much food that he felt very excited. He had just started to nibble some tasty cheese when the door opened, and in came the cook. "Quick, hide!" whispered Town Mouse as he dashed for safety. Crash! Bang! The cook rattled some pots and pans. "Mice," she said. "Mice have been eating the cheese. I am going to have to set a trap." Country Mouse crouched behind a jug. When the cook had gone, Country Mouse looked around for his cousin. He couldn't see him anywhere, but there, asleep by the fire, was an enormous cat. Where, oh where was Town Mouse? Then he heard a loud whisper. "Over here! Quick!" It was Town Mouse calling to him. Country Mouse raced down the leg of the table and across the kitchen floor to the hole in the wall. "Don't worry," laughed Town Mouse. "We can have some more food tomorrow. There's always plenty left over for us to eat. Come along. You can have my softer feather bed." But Country Mouse could not sleep. He lay awake all night. He could hear the big cat meowing and scratching at the mouse hole. He could hear the tramping of feet and the sound of loud voices. In the morning, Country Mouse said, "It's time for me to go home." "But there's so much to see here," said Town Mouse. "I want to show you the town." "No, thank you," said Country Mouse. "The town is no place for me, and the country is no place for you." And he ran off down the road, back to his home in the wheat field. The end. That's it. So as you can see in our story, there were things about the town that were one way. There were things about the country that were another way. And in the end, it turned out that maybe they were a little bit too different for each other. Thanks for joining me for another story. It was really nice being able to read to you. I hope you come back and join me again. Have a great day. Bye.